I was counting my count staff at about 146. And as a human rights activist who travels across the country, anything more than 20 is a success. Anything which is more than 50 is a grand success. 60 is success for the decade. 100 I don't dare to believe in 160. So if 140 of you Mangalorians who believe in coming here on a Saturday evening, hats off. Democracy may be in very well the rest of India, but perhaps democracy is a little safe in our hands. The second pleasant thing here is to sit in a hall as beautiful as this and look at that side with a beautiful garden behind it. And I was scratching my head and trying to figure, is there any hall like this in Chennai? I come from Chennai. Is there any hall like this in Chennai? And I was scratching my head literally, and I couldn't find even a single example of such a beautiful hall. Thank you, PUCL Mangalore, for organizing a meeting like this. In the concrete jungles of Chennai, we don't know anything but concrete gardens, and there's a beautiful garden. Friends, we are living in two Indias. 10 years back, the whole debate was about India and Bharat. In 2013, we are living in an India which is an India of the Netas, the leaders. And we are living in an India which is the India of the Janata, that is us. The India of the Netas is on an ever hungry spree of eating and gulping and looting and plundering with vital abandon. And it does not matter whether you are a Neta of the BJP or a Neta of the Congress or a Neta of the SP or a Neta of the PSP or any of the other parties, all the same. Like in Tamil we call them, they are the two-legged rats, constantly eating into the Indian. And then you have the rest of us, the Janata. So looking at these two-legged rats, think, how do we stop them? It looks like we can't stop them. It's very interesting. The India of Netas, they fight among themselves. But if the Janata raises an issue about the Netas, they all join up and kick out and beat up the Janata. So much so that the looter and the plunderer today is given all the various ratnas. They are given all the various medals and the awards that the country can give. And they are called, the land. We are living in such a psychologically affected land. The land of the Rajas and the land of the Pawars and the land of these things. These guys are saying that we are the heroes of the country. The looters and the plunderers are the heroes. And when the Janata raises questions, they become traitors. Friends, I am saying traitors not in a figurative sense. I am saying traitor literally. Vinayak Singh, a world-renowned doctor, somebody who has dedicated his life to working amongst the tribals, who incidentally happens to be the Vice Minister of Ministry. He went 33 times to the jail because the jail superintendent called him and gave him permission to go and meet the prisoner there. Within the sight of the jail superintendent, to give medical aid to this person. This is a doctor who felt that if I take the oath of the Hippocrates oath, I have to be true to it. Unfortunately, he is not like our Netas, who take the oath of the Constitution and do everything to break the Constitution. This was one Bechara doctor who felt that you have got an MBBS degree, I should be a doctor and I should not be a Neta. And he paid the price. And he paid the price because he was called traitor and booked under the sedition law. India has signed away our food sovereignty. Kavita is going to talk about that. She's like Lisa said, a one-woman dynamo. She just pushed and pushed and pushed it for 12 years. But finally we got the Right to Food Act 2 weeks back. And she's one of the key players in that. Kavita is somebody who doesn't take no for an answer. She knows only one way, and that is to get rights to the people. Likewise, people of Kudangalam in South Tamil Nadu, where this Kudangalam plant is going to come, young students said, we do not want this atomic plant because this plant endangers all of us. This is very unsafe. 14-year-old, 15-year-old children stood with placards and said, we have a right to free environment, we have a right to live here without environmental problems. And do you know what the governments replied them with? They replied them with two enactments. They invoked Section 121, waging war against India, and they invoked Section 124A, sedition. Sedition is, as you know, when you are a traitor to the country, then you are hooked under sedition. Young children were hooked under sedition law and waging war against India. For what? For daring to stand up and say, we want safe environment. And when Robert Vadra loots, and everybody knows the way he is looting, all the political class suddenly discovered we should be personal. So Advani will say, no, that is a personal issue of the family. We should not do that. Because if they do something, Congress will get back and say, what about Vajpayee's so-called son-in-law? So this honor among thieves in India is very rigid. And this honor among thieves in India makes them heroes and us traitors. This is the irony of democracy in India. They got a very beautiful ways of how to get out of a scam. Nobody seems to be bothered. Kanimani, then Raja, and many other people. Look at the Pawars, look at the Prabhu Patels, look at Vadras, look at Sonia. None of them seem to be in any way worried about the fact that they're hooked under various things. Everybody is supremely confident that the law of the land is not the law for the neighbors. It's a different law for them. The law of the land is only for the other becharas who can't manage the system. So, the effect is that we as a Janata, at one point in time, feel hopeless. And we in a way also feel helpless. What do we do? This is where we need to understand. Is really the situation so hopeless that we can't do anything as citizens? Are we so helpless that we can't raise our voice? Are we really so spineless that we don't want to take a stand? Friends, Prabhakar talked about the various ways in which we in India are facing a peril of democracy. Democracy is a peril. Please don't forget, it's a very, very slender strain of democracy that we have today. Any moment it can snap. And when it snaps, unless people raise voices, it's going to be removed out of our hands. At least we who have been fighting this day in and day out are very clear about this. 10 years back, I see the new report here and we were talking about it yesterday. 10 years back, if there was a scam, if there was a human rights violation, if there was a major problem, and citizens raised this issue and citizens were beaten up, at least one of the political parties will respond and say, no, this is human rights abuse, they will go on the street. Today, all these bandicoots are all in the same plane. Have you ever heard any of them coming together on the whole scam, barring raising voices in Parliament? What about the other numerous scams? How many of you know, for example, the type of agricultural crisis that has beset our country? Traditional varieties of maize, which tribals are growing in the areas, which has been developed over centuries of breeding. That we have species of rice and species of beans, species of plant varieties, which are not resistant but tolerant. I learned this only 2 years back. 80% of India's groundwater is devastated. Even if it rains continuously for the next 10 years, our groundwater is not going to be replenished. 80% of India is sitting on a time bomb. That's when I heard that in India there are varieties of maize, varieties of rice, varieties of millets, various other crops, which has grown as tolerant as salinity. Whereas the seed companies are giving us crops that are supposed to be resistant to pesticide. One is a positive way of looking, the other is a negative way of looking. And all our gene species are finished. For the last 5 years, the Monsanto company came and gave free maize seeds all across, including Karnataka, in Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. All the areas where tribals were growing maize, they went and gave them free maize seeds and said, you take it. Poor people did not know what, but the government also was behind them and they pushed it. First year they took the maize, they didn't know what it meant. Because as farmers go, you grow, say, 10 sacks, you keep one sack as seed for the next year. They kept that seed in the next year, that seed did not grow. So they had to get another next year's seeds. That was also supplied free to them. They did this for 3 years until all the existing traditional varieties of maize was finished. And the 4th year, the farmers were enslaved. They had to purchase the seed, which from the 4th year onwards was not given to them free, but was given to them in the price. And then they discovered this maize cannot be eaten by human beings. This is industrial maize, which is grown in India to feed the pigs of America and the pigs of Europe. Friends, I am not seeking to shock you. I am not trying to sensationalize. This is the reality that we are living in. Issue after issue is one horror story. And this horror doesn't seem to end. And I would like to say, this horror will not end until you and us learn to stand up and say no to this. Our forefathers had the wisdom to leave behind the biodiversity, to leave behind natural resources, which are cohesive, which are environment friendly. I see a lot of white hair like mine out here, and many of us know what fresh rain was, and rain was fresh water. And today somebody told me very proudly, Mangalore is the area which has the maximum rainfall in India. And they also told me in the same breath, Mangalore is also the place where there's always drought in May, and there is no water for Bangaloreans city in May. You look at the tragedy. You are receiving the highest rainfall in India, and you are also having drought in April, May, June. So I wonder who is asking questions. Is anybody asking this question? Why, what, how? Perhaps a few people are asking, perhaps many more are not speaking. That brings me to the first part of the crisis that we as citizens face. We are following a development process in which you have the rich, the very rich, and you have the very poor. Unfortunately, the very poor are 80% of the population, and the very rich are only about 2 to 4% of the population. And then you have the next 15% who's a wannabe rich. They're all hoping with their tongues out, salivating. Can I become like an Ambani? Can I be like this? Can I be like that? And saving and going behind them. And then you have the rest of the 8% forming the 20% of the middle class, which is hoping, perhaps I will have a chance. Perhaps I can get there. Many of the younger people may not remember a magazine called the Reader's Digest. Many of the older people may remember Reader's Digest. I grew up on Reader's Digest. Where I live in middle class, family, Chennai. Middle class. And Reader's Digest, many people don't know the origins of the Reader's Digest. And the Reader's Digest had a fantastic winnable formula. And the formula was, there was every issue there will be one story about this one person who won against the greatest odds. That one person in a million who won despite all the greatest difficulties that she or he had and came out a success. And the story is, if you succeed because of your effort and you will become a success. You all grew up with the whole idea, maybe I am the one in the million. This had a tremendous impact. Until much later I realized that the formula for Reader's Digest was a formula based on, in America, created to enslave the rest of the middle class world to think that you should be the one in that person, so that you're continuously following behind that hope that you will be the millionth person who will actually win, and you're not bothered about the million minus one who are trying to win and who will never get there. Friends, looking at my own sisters and brothers, looking at the numerous people I see in the cities, and I travel across the country. I'm reminded of the Leaders' Day story that the bulk of middle class urban India is like a person, it's like a horse which is running with a carrot in front, hoping that someday it will eat the carrot, continuously going into that and not taking a decision. Maybe I don't need the carrot, I have to stop. This is the tragedy that we as middle class people, the intelligentsia, the professionals are facing. We are atomized, we are broken up, we are divided, we are made into separate professional classes, and ultimately we reach a situation in which we don't care. And we don't want to take any stand. If there is a stand, it is only in the sittings, the drawing rooms, or in small seminar halls, and we've lost the will to go out and fight. If there is a fight, it is for somebody else. Let the fight, and I don't want it. The older generation feel that they are tired, and we are not any younger. We have Prabhakar ji who's amongst us, like he says, please don't call me an old man. He's also young in age these days, not just man. But that is a tragedy that comes. And the younger people are of course not wanting to come into this. And the tragedy is that everything is degenerating. Take the educational system. Who was asking about the quality of education? Yesterday we had a one-day workshop for students. And we had a role play in which students were taking different roles. And many of the students who played the role, and we made it very culture specific. So we had groups from Mangalore area. There was one group which was the Bunts, and there was one group which was the Konkanis, and there was some other group. And all these people, by definition in the game, were not people who were supposed to have been born in that group. And all these groups uniformly came and spoke in the same voice. No reservations. Reservations are very bad. We should have only reservations on merit. Uniformly, this was a uniform voice among the people who took part in these things. Then we asked them, is there discrimination in society? Yes, there is discrimination. Is there gender discrimination? Yes, there is gender discrimination. Is there caste? Yes, sir. Then why not have reservation? No, reservations are very bad. So what type of reservation? No, only on merit. But how about merit? What happens in merit? Are all people on the same scale? Then there is a silence. Then we talk about capitation fee. Are people paying capitation fee? Yes. Is capitation fee okay? No, if you can pay, it doesn't matter. You pay, two people are on equal front. But somebody coming from a slum and somebody coming from any of our houses, are they on the same rate? No. Then isn't capitation fee another form of reservation? Oh, we never thought of it. Friends, we never thought of it. We never thought of it as a crisis that we all are facing. We never thought of it because we didn't go behind it. And we don't want to go behind it. Somewhere, my earlier generation fought during the emergency. Somewhere they decided to stop. The next generation, which is my generation, decided this is not for us. This is for somebody else. And then the generation after me is a generation which is so besotted by trying to succeed and somehow win that they are not bothered. For us, it's a choice. For us, it's a choice which at one level is intellectual. Should we not take a stand? For 80% of India, there is no choice. It is either to live or to die. And if they have to live, they say, we want to live with dignity. We don't want to live like an animal. This is a voice which is resoundingly coming out of India. A voice which the media is not carrying. The media has its own reasons why they don't want to carry this voice. The media has its own conspiracy as to why they want to keep people informed of one thing and not of other things. But this is a voice which is heard in 1,000 mutinies that is happening across India. Many of you would have heard and read about what is happening in Niyamgiri in Odisha just now. Sterlite Industries and Vedanta. I heard recently, 20 years back or 25 years back, Anindra Agarwal was just an ordinary electrical dealer. And today he is being the richest Indian and one of the richest persons in that. 25 years. At least Ambani's had a father who worked for 40 years and they inherited their wealth. This is one man within 25 years who's made all the money. And they don't make all that money merely by smartness. All the smartness in the world, all the politicians behind them, all the MPs who are supporting them could not come in the way of ordinary people who perhaps have never even stepped into freedom and school. And the tribals, the so-called primitive tribal group, the PTGs of Niyamgiri, teach all of us educated people a lesson. They said we care. We care for our earth and we are willing to die for the fact that we care for the earth. And for the last many years they've been fighting. They've been fighting the Orissa government, which through case after case, police after police, state reserve police after them. They took up the case all the way to the Supreme Court. And in a way forced the Supreme Court to recognize the fact that they have a right to determine whether they want to allow Vedanta or not. For the last 4 months, the government of Orissa has put a cordon around the Nilgiri hills, preventing any outsiders from going in, because the outsiders are the ones who are giving negative inputs to the tribals to protest. They prevented anybody from the outside world to have contacts with the Nilgiri tribals, ordinary tribals. This is not even tribals in the rest, like areas of Jharkhand or Chhattisgarh or the other areas of India where there is some political movement. These are ordinary tribals. And these tribals, in the last 3 months, 12 out of 132 villages which are supposed to be part of the Nilgiri tribal grouping, the government made a trick and brought it down only 12 villages. One village after another. They braved the government who said, we will book you under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. We will book you under this law and that law. They said, you do what you want to do, we will do what we shall do. And what we shall do is to stand for something that we think is right. The challenge for all of us, friends, do we have that courage? Each one of you here, are you willing to take a stand? Let's be very clear. We are not doing this for some bechara poor man. If you Mangalorians are taking up a stand and fighting the SEZs coming here, I came here yesterday, this is the first time I am coming to Mangalore. I really did not know many of the issues of Mangalore. I should confess, I should say, it's unfortunate that I don't know, but I did not know. And since yesterday I have been hearing about SEZ. I've been hearing about industrial growth in Mangalore. I've been hearing about all the type of civic force in Mangalore. And I was being asked the people, what is the type of citizens movement here against many of these things? The voices are a little silent on that. Sometimes we come. And then Lisa said, PUCL was a meeting, 10 people come. Somebody else also a meeting, maybe 25 people come. But nowhere I have heard of any meeting where more than 100, 200 people come. And the question before all of you is, this is for you and your city, not for some poor tribal somewhere else. Friends, forget charity for the poor. Forget it. Think of yourself. Would you want your grandchildren to live in a city without any amenities? Would you want your grandchildren to experience acid rain? All the petrochemical complexes are coming here. There's supposed to be one line which is going to bring petroleum gas or something like that under one of the most fertile agricultural lands in this part of India. Would you want to live in a Mangalore which is going to be drought ridden for 6 to 8 months in a year, despite being the area with the highest rainfall in India? Do you know that Cherrapunji, which has the world record for the maximum amount of rainfall in a year, is today a desert? Many of us have read about Cherrapunji. How many of us even know how to spell it? Doesn't matter. But today it has become a drought area. Do you want Mangalore to become like this? I certainly don't want to come here in a meeting 10 years from now, look out there and just see storms and concrete. That is a challenge before us. The challenge before us is, do we want for ourselves, if for nothing else, do we want for ourselves a land where we can live with our head high? where we are not an India of Netas and Indias of Jantas, but we are a land of Indians? Do we want development which is measured in GDP, or do we want development as freedom? As freedom to lead a life which we value, and which we value the life that we lead? I am not quite enough to concoct this thing. This is what the Human Development Report says. Development is freedom. Freedom to live life that you value and value the life that you lead. Such beautiful words. This is the question for us. We cannot have this unless we have democracy. And democracy is meaningless if you don't have human rights. Democracy is inseparable from human rights. Human rights is of no value unless we have democracy. And put together, they mean nothing unless we have development. And development is not GDP, but development is our freedom. The freedom to live a life of value. That is a choice for all of us. This is not the choice of the Bangalore alone, it's a choice for India. And we are fast becoming a land which is going to become a parched land. A land where there is no water. A land in which bulk of the food is going to be brought out from outside. And the world food market is facing a huge crisis. And when we become a land of scarcity, people are going to protest. And when people